Hi, it's Miles with Songbird, Z. Michelle Birdsong. I ordered an album from Discogs and I received it today, along with a personal note which I'd like to share with you. It says, Dear Michelle, it makes me proud to send this beautiful album to you after all these years. It has finally come home. Thank you for the music, Dom. And after thinking about it, this is what came to me about Dom. I said, he has class, he has taste, he has initiative. He's a real person, human with feelings. I congratulate his parents. They did a fine job of raising him. You can tell he's well educated and well bred. White bread, no doubt, the good kind. He's good and he's kind. Okay, and this is the album I ordered. It's the first album that Edwin and I did called What It Is. This is the second album we did called Supernatural. Okay, so I will now share the email I wrote to Dom. Mild Red Birdsong to Dom, re-album What It Is. Received the album today. Well packaged. Thank you so very much. Your package and thoughtful note made my day. I was touched that you took the time and made the effort to write me such a warm note. You obviously realized that I co-wrote the songs. My heart is gladdened that you found our album beautiful. We wrote truth from our hearts. Edwin transitioned out of his body a couple of months ago. Stevie Wonder, who was so impressed with this album, after he heard it, he gave us a call and invited us to his apartment in Queens to meet him. He sang 2 beautiful songs at Edwin's funeral. That was the beginning, when we went to his apartment in Queens, of a 45-year close relationship with Stevie Wonder. Attached are photos of our son sing Birdsong, singer-songwriter. He was Jimi Hendrix and Mozart. Pictures with Steve. Also attached are photos of Edwin with Steve sitting at the piano. Edwin was Bach and Irving Berlin. There's a photo of our daughter, Robin Birdsong, who was Dr. Seuss and Robin Hood. And she's a co-author of the children's book, Sneezy the Greasy Babysits Abigail. And she's sitting with Steve at Edwin's funeral. And they look just alike. Steve had to leave the room 3 times during the funeral. So overcome with grief was he, and his voice got choked up as he sang the song, As. Amazingly enough, I have learned that Robin is actually Stevie Wonder's immaculately conceived firstborn, his daughter, but that's a story for another email and YouTube videos. I have many astonishing new truths videos about the people and the people, about the people in the world, about the world. This is wrong. Let me just scratch this out here. That should be about the world and the people in it on the Mild Red Songbird YouTube channel. One of the photos I've attached is of a jubilant Robin Birdsong showing her VIP meet and greet pass to the recent Stevie Wonder Judas, Lionel Richie, President James Madison, Booker T. Washington, concert in Hyde Park. Robin Birdsong was Galileo and Queen Victoria, Empress of India. Park, London. At that concert, what does that mean, Park, London? I don't know what that means. concert in Hyde Park in London, right. At that concert, you may have heard about this. The Stevie Wonder announced that he's having a kidney transplant operation in September. Well, Dom, it has been a pleasure knowing a little about a decent soul with integrity. That is my impression of you. Sincerely, Michelle Birdsong, lyricist of What It Is, former wife of Edwin Birdsong, mother of Sing Birdsong, George Gershwin, projection of Jesus Christ, Wilbur Wright, and Robin Birdsong, King James the First and the Sixth, and Melanie L. Spear, who was the explorer Christopher Columbus, and the patron saint of the poor in Ireland, St. Patrick. Here's some pictures. Michael Bublé saying, in effect, "Sorry, I mistreated you when I was an animal, an ape." Michael Bublé was the first entity on Earth, an ape. Now has evolved and he's a man. The Michelle Birdsong, daughter of the sun and moon, Venus, Marilyn Monroe projection. Michelle sings keyboard in his home studio when he lived on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. This photo appeared. The light is really involved here. There's Edwin. The light's right on him. You see him sitting at the keyboard? The piano, it's a baby grand. This photo appeared on the front page of the New York Times. Sitting at the piano, about to sing a song from the album What It Is. Michelle Birdsong's story song called It Ain't No Fun Being a Welfare Recipient, before hundreds of thousands of people, including Coretta Scott King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s wife. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is now Lou Ranziger, and this is at a rally for poor people in Washington, D.C. You can see people just everywhere. That's Eugene McCarthy. He was running for president that year. He's an Aries. Attached, Dom, is a photo of Edwin and I dancing. I'll put it over here for a while. Edwin and I dancing. There is a video that Michelle Birdsong uploads called the name of the song Edwin wrote about me. I love you, Michelle. Yeah, baby. Edwin's last wishes are that Sing, projection of Richard Rogers, Robin, Voltaire, and I, Shakespeare, work together on the musical I'm writing. I asked Edwin if he wanted to work with me on the musical, and he said he had something to do. He had grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I wasn't asking him because I was trying to give him something to do. Or maybe I was, I don't know. I just thought we would write some good songs together. So, had his second wish, and Edwin's second wish is that I take the credit for the large part I played in helping him get established so that he was able to make a very good living in music, having a strong fan base. The album What It Is the voice of the real self-loathing Jews, the black masses. Christ, who killed Christ. The black masses who killed Christ, along with Herod, Gary Bird, Pontius Pilate, Luciano Lopelato, Michael Bublé's current wife. Michael Bublé's a projection of Christ. He was Elvis, Sinatra, and a projection of Michael Jackson. And Edwin made a good living in music, having his music sampled by some of the greatest hip-hop artists: De La Soul, Kanye West, Mary J. Blige, Snoop Dogg, Daft Punk, and others. The powers that be let Edwin's hip-hop in and become the hot new sounds all about bitches and hoes and being bling-bling, instead of the eclectic, high-frequency, high-vibratory sounds, because of what it is, would have awakened people out of their slumber, out of their stupor, and together they would have gotten together and changed the world back into heaven on earth. And the powers that be don't want that. Let's go back to one of those. Edwin also won a couple Grammys. Edwin prospered with his hip-hop-ish kind of music while abandoning the folks who helped him create the album with the high standards, his masterpiece album, What It Is, that got him the attention of the successful music people in the first place. Now that Edwin is out of body, he's stuck with the bad karma of having kept me and my contribution to his career a secret and unpaid. Gary Bird, black celebrity, disc jockey, New York City, also a friend of Stevie Wonder's, said to me, "You created Birdsong's image." "I know I was there," he said. And What It Is was Edwin's best album, his masterpiece. I totally agree. Edwin now wants to get another body as Robin's son when she marries. But right about now, he tells me that because he cheated me out of royalties and recognition, he doesn't have the good karma he needs to merit another human birth. It takes about 1,000,000 years to get a human birth, starting from scratch, going through the animal and plant kingdoms, etc. People really need to understand what they do and think matters. It may not seem like they matter to the unseeing eye, but perfect justice is being carried out in this world. Johann Vagoda, the genius attorney I sold Stevie Wonder to by saying, "Stevie's a genius," that yes, little Stevie Wonder can cross over from obscure soul singer to major pop star and make himself and his attorney a lot of money. To make sure that once Vagoda helped Steve get very rich and famous by negotiating lucrative contracts for him, by making sure Steve didn't dump him while he went to the top, because of the Michelle Birdsong having sold Johann Vagoda, had a contract with Steve that he would set Steve up to make a lot of money, and that as long as Steve made a lot of money, Johanna would get a small percentage, 5% of whatever Steve earned, to collect the 5% directly from and in case he died, Vagoda died, his wife would be able to collect the 5% directly from Steve instead of from Steve to Vagoda to his wife. Vagoda was trying to guarantee that he and his loved one wasn't left with nothing, like Edwin had left me with nothing. So even though Steve and Berry Gordy gave Steve the unearned credit for Steve refusing to sign his new contract with Motown until he got a $13 million advance, that was all Vagoda's genius. Vagoda got his monetary share, though Stevie took the credit for the strategy, for that which got the money. One Saturday, Edwin and I drove up to Woodstock, New York to visit Johanna Vagoda, who had a modest white wood house with a big picture window with a baby grand piano situated by the window. So as you played a Beethoven concerto, the pianist could glance to his right and see a big old mountain. Johanna said, "One day I was walking down the street and it hit me. I'm going to get Stevie $13 million advance from Motown." So Johanna had Stevie refuse to re-sign with Motown until they agreed to give him $13 million, an unheard of sum back then. Tony Bennett, the pop star of the time, couldn't claim anywhere near that amount of money. One day Johanna was in the office of and negotiating with Berry Gordy's man when Johanna, suddenly stood on his head. Johanna had been my husband in a past life. Both of us were practicing yoga in this life. He, the negotiator, knew Johanna was eccentric, but to see him upside down like a baby whose head is poised to come out of the womb was too much for this world of five senses negotiator. They had been negotiating for quite some time, but this day he said, 2 feet in the air, Johanna, you're crazy. You win. Stevie can have his $13 million. Now get out of my office." And that's how Johanna got started, making Stevie Wonder very rich and very famous. But toward the end of his life, Johanna emailed me several times. He said he couldn't even get Steve to take his calls. Now that he was set for life, and Johanna was sick, Steve dropped Johanna from his life. Stevie had been Johanna's investment, not just for money, but for mutual appreciation. But Stevie and Edwin shared the same characteristics. They were ingrates. Johanna and I guess Steve is still an ingrate. Johanna and I still appreciated each other's humanity. There was loyalty between us to each other, and the memory of who did what for whom. Johanna had negotiated Edwin's production deal with Wes Farrell, who was married to Frank Sinatra's daughter, Tina Sinatra, for a mere 5% commission was all Johanna asked for. Edwin complained even though deal-making attorneys were getting 15 to 20 to 25%. I guess Edwin wanted Johanna's services for a little or nothing, like he got for my services. Like he paid for my service, almost nothing. Johanna said to me that I'm feisty of a person, typically one who is relatively small or weak, lively, determined, and courageous. A feisty heroine who's more than a pretty face. Synonyms: spirited, plucky. Maria Cott, the writing group teacher today at St. Francis of Assisi, Residence 3, when I told her my kids and I used to bike all over Manhattan, she said, "You are courageous." A month or so ago, my father, the son, fat her, he did fat me. He made me pregnant with his enormous supreme beam. He told me to stop looking at him, to be fearless and strong. I must always obey him, as he knows best. I was very sad when Vigoda left his body. I was horrified to read where Stevie Wonder had made twins by one woman while still married to another woman. Edwin and Gary Bird had done the same thing. They had babies by other women while still having wives. They say, look at your friends. You're going to be just like them in a few years. I was more horrified to find that Justice Edwin had snuck and changed our company, Michelle Bird Music, to Edwin Birdsong Music Publishing, so I could have no claim or even see the royalties he had coming in, so he could cheat me out of money. He'd given me the impression that he loved me so very much. Of course he would always do right by me. It has taken almost 50 years for me to see and feel Edwin's selfishness and ruthlessness. Johanna didn't see the depth of Stevie's ingratitude and his sneakiness before he died. But when Johanna died, Steve took his widow to court, relying on playing the sympathy card. Stevie claimed he was a victim and didn't agree to the deal he thumb-signed, although it had been read to him before he was allowed to sign it. So Steve played the race card and the I'm blind card and won the game. His contract with Johanna, that his wife wouldn't have to be poor if he died, that she would continue to receive 5% of the money he set Steve up to earn, was overturned. I couldn't at first believe how cold-hearted Steve and Edwin were and are. That's Steve. Edwin's not cold-hearted because he doesn't have a heart anymore, nobody. Edwin was cheating me. No royalties, no publishing money, no child support payments while he was raking in the dough. I thought he was poor like me until I went to live at Stevie Wonder's townhouse where Edwin had lived. Here I wrote it down. Edwin lived in Stevie Wonder's Gramercy Park townhouse for 30 years rent-free, and he raked in royalties, publishing money. He had 9 or 10 children. The only woman who sued him for child support, the child wasn't even his by the looks of her. Edwin was so bad he couldn't accuse still another gold digger of doing bad. I hope his real children aren't too guilty of such chumps that they don't require, and aren't such chumps that they don't require a DNA test before sharing his estate monies with her, if after the IRS, America's version of Gestapo, don't take all the money and throw it away like they do most of our tax monies. Standing armies are dangerous to the population. Everybody knows that. Why do we have a standing army? To go to war for Israel, you say? I hope we stop fighting Israel to wars. They are fake Jews. They deserve nothing, certainly not Israel. The real Jews, the blacks, as soon as they stop punishing themselves and get at the frequency of rewards, deserve Israel. That may be new news for you, but it's true news. Back to the email to Dom. My new human acquaintance. Steve said to me more than once, he's my friend, meaning Steve's my friend. A friend doesn't kick you. Your business mainstream includes to the marginalized, meaning mainstream includes to black lives, and my employees out into the rain. In the rain, yes, Holy Royal Family. I told Edwin to ask Steve if he'd like to be a part of my business to inform the low-informed group. It would be his legacy. Edwin said he gives a Christmas party for poor children every Christmas. That's fine, but I'm talking about empowering black people, not violent power like Antifa or Black Panthers. I'm talking about brain and heart power. The power to think and the power to feel. The power to be real, real alive, realized. Edwin said Steve wasn't interested. I see Steve picked up a couple of charities so he could say that he gives some back. Small potatoes. What have I got here? Black people don't tip. Black people don't volunteer. Black people give minimum to charity. Black people are not givers, they are takers. Then they don't have gratitude. They have been a cursed race. Not many traits to admire. They're the worst parents, worst citizens, worst neighbors, voters. Their votes go to the party offering the most free stuff. In other words, they sell their votes. Edwin is still stuck with having kept his large debt to me a secret and unpaid. He wants to get another body as Robin's son when she marries. He's been giving her money to live on all along with her student loans while she's been studying. So I see he wants her to take care of him as soon as possible. Okay, and then I have a tweet here from @RealDonaldTrump. It says, the newest poll, only 11% in favor of starting ridiculous impeachment hearings. Well, let's see. We have the best economy in history, the best employment numbers in history, most people working in history, highest stock market, biggest tax and regulation cuts in history, which is good for new businesses. Okay, so that's my letter to Dom, and again, it's so nice to know that sweet human beings still on the earth, thoughtful, people with integrity. He wrapped that package perfectly. He took the pains to make sure it would arrive to me safely. And again, I appreciate Dom. He's from the UK, where Robin is from. And he says, thank you for the music. And I say, you're very welcome. Thank you for appreciating the music. So long.